the research would be much better channelled into things like that. Giving people that are living with disease a better quality of life, I think, is a much more beneficial thing than trying to eradicate the male species. Because who is going to chase the spiders out of a house?
I don't have an issue with spiders too badly.
No, I know you don't, but your sister and mother do.
They do.
Big time.
But to be honest, men are as scared of insects as women. I had to save my boyfriend from a wasp. Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
they're
two
nasty.
wasps.
They're nasty, so are swans.
So are swans, to be honest.
They're really quite aggressive.
Swans are spawns of the devil, I am sure of it.
Yeah, well, you see, that's a gay. That's there's not enough mixed breeding with swans. That's why they're aggressive and scary.
Yes, they are. They
Yes.
are very scary.
Well, if you've got any thoughts on all-female impregnation or even all-male impregnation, just to balance the argument, then drop us a line via the website and we'll be interested to hear what you have to say.
You would have to make a fake uterus for that, though. All male.
Yeah, but I'm sure you can 3D print one.
Probably.
You can 3D print just
You can print anything.
Pretty much. I think we'd be okay there. As long as we're not 3D printing babies, I think we're probably
They wouldn't move, would they?
Yeah, you can print a complete moving item. There was one on many years ago, I think it was on QI, and it was like this crab thing that would actually move. And I was stunned. I've never seen anything like it. And I believe you can 3D print metal as well, so there's the possibilities are endless. Certainly for research and development, but also you take something like the International Space Station where you break something, you're not going to get an Amazon Prime next day delivery there.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. Although I think Elon Musk is probably working on such a system.
I wouldn't
so
be surprised.
if you could print a replacement item, that'd be brilliant. So yeah.
Quick fix.
All good. So we were going to talk about reply all emails, and I know email sort of has fallen out of favour a little bit. I mean, certainly some of the companies I've worked for, you tend to use an instant messaging system, which drives me bananas, to be honest. And it's very difficult, I find, to keep track of things on there. You can have 30 odd messages in a day, so if you're off for a week, you've no chance of reading them all, which is a bit of a shame. That has to be said, dramatically reduced the number of emails. But our Lions Club, for example, runs, and certainly over the last 6 months, runs on emails in terms of organising and getting people to do things.
I do think that is because I'm not sure the majority of the Lions Club could function instant messaging.
I think that's yes. I mean, it was incredible to have one of our founder members, who's in his 90s now, actually on Zoom taking. Well, he was listening to the meeting, but it has to be said that his hearing is not as much. None of us has. But, we're mostly all over 50, so none of our hearing is particularly brilliant. But yes, it was good to be able to get. But that was a bit of a bit exciting for the first couple of meetings as we got everybody on board and some "Can you hear me? No, you're on mute" type conversations. Anyway, back to the email. So,
yes.
So you'll get, for example, I've sent one out recently to get some help for a local charity 5k run, and you'll get the people that will email everybody back. So there's over 50 members of the club now, and say, "No, I'm not available." And you imagine getting 50 emails across the whole of 50 people for that. One or two people do get very, very excited about it. And even if you put in the email, "Please do not reply" or "reply to," it still happens. So I don't know whether they're probably on some very, very old version of Outlook or something like that has reply all as a default.
You have to do a drop down to hit.
Well, some of the older ones are a bit weird in what you could turn on as defaults. I suspect some of them are still rumbling on an old XP machine with Office 2000 or something of a similar sort of vintage. But it does cause quite a lot of frustration, and you see it in the workplace as well. I mean, not so much now maybe, but certainly in the past, where you're on an email chain you have no interest in, and there's just reply after reply after reply. So.
Well, the worst bit is that you're in an email chain that you need to know parts of, but not all of, and there's kind of, like you said, people just replying saying yes or no, but you don't need to know that, and not everybody else needs to know that. And then you have to scroll back through about 20 emails just to find the bit of information that you needed at the start. And I know there's a search bar, but I never know the words to search normally.
Well, this is it. If you're not quite sure what you're searching for, how do you search for it?
Yeah,
which
you
is
have to scroll.
An interesting discussion. Yeah, you have to scroll and read. And if there's lots of unnecessary wording in there, which generally there is, then you're there for a good half hour. Yeah, I think finding information in corporate networks is a real challenge. I mean, the amount of documents that get generated is an information, and it's in different places, and that's the problem. It's trying to link all these things together is quite difficult. So, and I have no answer to that apart from ignore every email, which not necessarily one to get you promoted very quickly.
I've never really worked in an industry where I was allowed to ignore emails.
Well, I don't think you're allowed to, but you get to an age where you go, well, is this really important? No, just send it, just delete. Come back from holiday, just delete everything, and work on the basis if it's important. Somebody will tell you. If you need to be somewhere, somebody will let you know. So, yes.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Moving on to something else that shouldn't really happen: mince pies before December. Now, I'm quite sad by the fact they start in September. I've always viewed them as a Christmas treat, and Christmas doesn't start in September, and it doesn't really start in November, to be honest.
Just love a mince pie. They just taste so good. Is it not worth it?
But we've got it all the wrong way round. Brussels sprouts, for example, now are fabulous, absolutely fabulous. By the time we get to virtually the end of December, they're not quite so good. They're going off a little bit. They're really very, very seasonal.
I mean, they taste like farts at the best of times. So by Christmas, they just don't taste.
Well, I disagree. I think they probably do by Christmas, but now, October time, they're in their prime. You definitely should eat more. They're very, very good for you. Anyway, we're talking about mince pies.
Mince pies.
So, I just think it's wrong. I mean, it's the same way we were talking last week about Christmas adverts starting in September, which for this year, for obvious reasons, they haven't. But that whole onslaught of Christmas marketing, it's just wrong. To me, it's building up an illusion.
Do you enjoy the taste of a mince pie?
In December, I do.
No, but it doesn't taste. It's not something that tastes different in any other time.
No, but you see, when I was lad, you had very much things was very much more seasonal than they are now. So
yeah, but if you enjoy something, you might as well make the most of having it.
But it's a bit like hot cross buns all year round. It just seems very wrong to me, and you don't get that period where they're very special because
they're special from September to December.
It's just a bit too long in my view.
Well, I've already eaten a whole box, so I'm definitely on the yes for mince pies as often as you can have them. Well,
I think I am a lone voice in this matter, but it's a subject that will divide people a bit like Marmite. But I either love it or they hate it. It's the advertising for that is very clever. I think that's true. I'm appalled at the fact they've mixed it with peanut butter, which is one of my favourite foods of all time.
I'm not sure I've seen that yet.
I've seen it advertised and just looked in horror, to be honest. But not as much as I have at the consumption of mince pies in the Grubby household.
Why is mince pies Christmas? What makes it Christmas food?
That's a very good question. I think they were made at Christmas and they weren't made any other time. And again, we would have had, my mum would have made mince pies, which she still does, rather than buy them from the shop. We've never had shop bought mince pies.
Oh, and they possibly does make good ones as well.
She does. It'd be interesting to see what comes out this year, but yes. I think actually the amount of mince the quantity of it has gone down dramatically over the last few years. There's certainly a few of last year's
ones.
It's just
a little thin.
Yeah, just scraping
Whereas
the
like
bottom.
a big dollop of mincemeat.
Yes, big dollop. So more mincemeat, less pastry, really. But so
Just more of both.
yeah, well, that'd be quite nice. Massive mince pie.
Oh,
But
we could do that. Make one giant mince
actually.
pie.
you see, and that would be the mince pie for the year. That you'd only have
No.
one.
But then you're only getting it, try it once. Taste it once.
Yes, but that then makes it special in my view. I mean, why not have Christmas Day every day?
Because Jesus wasn't born on every day.
Well, that's very true. But the marketing companies have have just moved so far away from that, and the same for Easter and any other religious holiday is
True.
very, very different. So I don't think we'll ever end or agree on mince pies
definitely
before
not.
December.
Right, if it tastes good, eat it as much as you can. Cream eggs, same thing.
Yeah, well, that's another subject, isn't it? That
We all know they'll be out on the 1st of January, ready for Easter.
pretty much, yeah. I should think they're in the stock rooms now.
Probably.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to those. But, yeah, so, well, that's it for this week's one. We talked about other podcasts last week, and I've got another one this week. Last year I read a book about pirates and being more pirate generally in life, which was interesting because I had no appreciation at all about how pirates as a community worked, and it's very interesting.
It is,
really,
actually.
really
I've
very interesting.
not finished yet, but have still in the process of reading that book.
Excellent.
And there's things I never knew about pirates. I'd actually
Indeed.
quite like to be a pirate.
I think being a pirate is probably quite good. And so Be More Pirate is the book, I think, and there's another one, How to Be More Pirate, which has just come out, which is on my desk, which I've started and not got too far in. But he mentions this pirate history podcast, and really that was the podcast that got me into looking at more podcasts and thinking, oh, this is quite nice actually, quite like the look of this. So if you like a bit of history, and it is so well told, the chap that does it, whose name escapes me, has got a cracking voice, very very listenable.
Does he do it in a pirate accent, though?
Well, that's very interesting because one of the early episodes talks about pirate accents and what we would associate with a pirate accent, which is not far from a West Country accent. It's actually not true at all. And it would be a mix from all over, and the chances are a pirate would have very much of an East End London accent or a city accent than a West Country accent. So yes, so that's again is a fallacy that many pirate films produced by Hollywood and the likes have distorted. But yeah, so if you fancy something a little bit different, I highly recommend that. So what have we got next week then, Lippy?
So next week we will be talking about... I've only got 2 things on here.
Oh, well, we've got 3 things on my list.
My list never updates. Alright, so things dropping from trees whilst driving, because I had a fright last week. Almost did a naughty in my pants. And then following that we'll be talking a bit about Halloween and also some Google Maps.
Yes, there was a Google Map incident in the Grumpy household over the weekend, where a simple journey was somewhat longer than it needed to be. And yeah, some observations over the years of Google Maps and some interesting routing that goes on. I'm not sure it's all what it seems. So,
No, I'd agree with that one.
yeah, so well, thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll get the end of the podcast correct this time, which you're now responsible for. I've given up, so you're doing all the editing.
It would be myself editing this week.
So that will be interesting. It's a lot harder than it seems. And there's a big bit in the middle where the telephone rang to get out as well. So,
I'll just leave that in there. That was kind of funny.
So if you hear a telephone, then you know we failed.
I didn't do my job properly.
Right. So that's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I would like to thank our sponsors, however we don't have any. So here's Lippy pitching for a job.
I'm currently unemployed, thanks COVID, and looking for an office management role, so if you need an extremely organised and hard-working office manager, then pop me a line.
If you're enjoying our rambling podcast and can spare a few pennies to help with our hosting costs, please head over to Patreon